Hello and welcome to Jolineknitsalot. This is my show about knitting and crafting and the things I get up to here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. It's the end of August and I think the days are getting shorter for sure. I'm starting to notice it's a little cooler outside, so I'm trying to get the most out of my summer knits that I can. This is the Rowdy tank top. It's a top I knit in Ritual Dyes Undine, which is a cotton and linen blend. And I think this is the Fireweed colorway. Always link in the show notes below any patterns I'm talking about. And if you like, you can always check out my project pages on Ravelry. I've linked my Ravelry page. Is that what we call it? My Ravelry page in the show notes below. Also Instagram and my email. So if you're ever looking for more information about what I'm wearing or what I'm doing, or if you want to get a hold of me, all that information is in the box right down there. It has been a busy couple of weeks, only in the sense that Calgary had Knit City last weekend and it was amazing. I thought I'd talk a little bit about Knit City Calgary at the beginning, some of my experiences, some of my thoughts. Then I'm going to show you some of the things I worked on, and then I'm going to show you what I brought home. So Knit City Calgary, as you know, Knit City is a big event. It started in Vancouver, and I've been going to the Vancouver Knit City for a number of years now. I think I've maybe missed a couple in the last, let's say, 6 or 7 years. I've been going a lot, and it's always a great festival when it's in Vancouver. And it's in a lovely area of the city in the P&E, which is an older building, but it's a beautiful area, and it's always in September, October, so it's a beautiful time of year there. And then Knit City branched out to Montreal and Toronto. So in the east, their show alternates between Montreal and Toronto, and those two cities host alternating years. And this year was the first time that the Knit City in the west has moved to Calgary, which is a very exciting for us living in Alberta. Calgary's about a 3-hour drive from Edmonton, where I live, and so my friend and I just drove down for the day. There were activities going on. Friday night there was a kickoff party with the grocery girls, and then Saturday and Sunday were classes and the marketplace. It was just a really, really well-run event. So when we showed up on Saturday morning after getting up early, getting coffee and driving down, we got to the marketplace around 10 and it had opened at 9. So when we got there, it was quite busy. When you walked in, there was a little admissions area with information and a beautiful seating area where they were holding demos every hour on the hour, and there was a big sign letting you know what demo was going to be held when. So there was always lots of learning little talks and stuff going on just outside of the main marketplace area. The market itself was held at the TELUS Convention Center in Calgary, which is a beautiful and quite new facility. So when you walk in, there's a large seating area and then into the conference area itself. And I have been to this facility for medical conferences in the past, but this was a much more joyful event. So when you walked in, the whole conference area was used for the vendors. And there was, I think, almost 90 some vendors. There was a large number of people there. And even with that number of vendors, the place still felt spacious and airy. There was lots of room in between all of the aisles. And each row only had, each pod only had 4 vendors. So each vendor had a corner booth. So they had lots of room and lots of space for people walking by to see what people had, what they were offering, and talk to people along the way. The lighting was great. I've been to Yarny events in the past where the lighting wasn't ideal, and that makes it really difficult when you're buying something that is very much based on color and texture. You want to be able to see what you're fondling. And the lighting at the Calgary Convention Center was amazing. One full wall of the convention center is all windows. There was lots of natural light as well as other light that made the whole place really bright and cheerful. There was water stations all along the outside, so you could grab a cup of water. There was bathrooms easily located, and everyone was just so excited and happy to be there. I had a really good idea of what I wanted to purchase. So I went straight to the Polka Dot Creek booth first because I knew that they would have what I was looking for. And then I spent a lot of time wandering around, talking to some of the vendors that I've gotten to know over the years. It's my understanding that it was a very successful event. I know some vendors sold out of some products even on the first day. So there was lots of people who came to Knit City Calgary. It was lots of fun. It was a great and exciting vibe. On the street outside of where the Knit City was being held, a local yarn store called Stash had yarn bombed a bunch of the trees. So it was very like, you just felt like the neighborhood was getting involved. And then Saturday morning outside of where we were, there was a big like Caribbean festival going on. So lots of dancing, lots of music. So the whole day was just fabulous. And if you get a chance to attend Knit City, wherever you are, I'm pretty sure that you're up for a good time. I've always enjoyed the event when it's been in Vancouver, partly because for me it's a trip. I get to go away, I get to go someplace else. But being in Calgary, which feels like close to home, it was so nice to see a beautiful yarn festival. It was so well organized, really well done. The vendors that I spoke to had great things to say about the organizers and the whole event, and that I think speaks really highly of Fiona and Amanda, who are the two amazing women behind the Knit City events. So well done, Knit City Calgary. I'll show you a little bit of what I got at the end of the show, but first I want to show you some of the things that I've been working on. Last time I was about to cast on my August socks, and I have finished those. These are the Fairground socks. That's the pattern that I used. It's a pattern by KF Jones, and it's got this really pretty, almost feather and fan kind of pattern. I used some Knitspin Farm Targhee Sport Weight. So this is a heavier yarn than the pattern calls for, but I used a smaller size than I would normally knit. So the Fairground Socks is written for fingering weight yarn. In fingering weight yarn, I would normally cast on 64 stitches. Because this is sport weight, I used the 56 stitch size, and I moved up to a 2.75 millimeter needle. So I used the appropriate needle for the yarn, and I used a smaller stitch count and still got this beautiful pair of socks. I used Knitspin Farm Targhee Sport, and this is the I'd Eat That, Said the Goats, I believe. So at Knitspin Farm, they have all sorts of animals on the farm, including goats who will apparently eat just about anything. So I think these are really pretty, and they do feel very like late summer. I think with the golds and the purple, it just feels very sort of, the days are getting shorter and cooler. So those are my August socks. And then I have another pair of August socks, I guess. I think last time I was telling you about Summer Lee's newest brainchild, which is the Colorwork Cuff Club, where every month you get a new colorwork cuff to work, and then it's all sort of added on to the basic sock pattern which she sends you at the beginning. So August being the first month of this club, I got the basic sock pattern, which is just a basic sock, and you could knit that all on its own, no color work, just a very plain standard sock, which is still a great pattern in and of itself. And then every month I'm going to be getting a colorwork chart that I can plug into the pattern that she's already sent me. August has two patterns, colorwork patterns. So this is the first one that I chose to knit. I think it's the one that a lot of people are knitting. Isn't it a pretty sock? She's got the, oh, I've got a little bit of a hole right there. I'll have to snug that up. These are one of the August sock patterns, and I'll zoom in on this one. It's a really pretty flower, and I used Jawool, or Jawool. That is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and both of these colors are in that range. I added the colorwork toe because I thought it was kind of fun and I didn't want to run out of the main color. But the one thing I found with this yarn is it's a little bit on the thin side. So I don't know if it was my favorite to use for color work. Color work often benefits from yarns that are a little bit plumper or will bloom a little bit when you block them. And that like plumper yarn or the blooming helps fill in some of the gaps in your color work. Now my color work isn't bad. I am pretty practiced at doing stranded color work, but I did find that my gauge was quite a bit looser in this area. I think for two reasons. One was that a lot of people who had been making this pattern had commented that they were concerned that the cuff was going to be too narrow and they weren't going to be able to get it on their foot. And partly that can be a factor of the size that you choose, your gauge or your sort of ease when you're knitting stranded color work. If you pull too tight on your strands, it will be an unforgiving fabric, because when the stranded color work always has is called stranded color work because there's always one strand of the color running in the back. And in fact, I'll show you my insides. This is the inside of my sock. So you can see there's always a strand on the inside of the color that isn't being used. And so if these strands back here are too tight, your fabric will not have any give. Those strands sort of keep the fabric from being able to stretch horizontally. And so that can make for a very snug sock. So I did go up a needle size when I worked the color work as Summer recommends. She recommends using a 2.25 for most of your sock, and then 2.75 for the color work. I use a 2.5 for the color work, and it's still a little bit like I've got give. It's not quite as stretchy as the main part of the sock, I would say, but it's still got some give. But on the flip side of that, I wonder if maybe I was knitting my color work a little bit looser than I could have. Regardless, I think I have a really pretty pair of socks. For me, I don't know if I'm going to be using this yarn again, or at least I'll use what I have, but I'm not going to seek it out for color work. The nice thing about it is a relatively well-priced yarn, and it comes in a lot of colors. But for me, it wasn't my favorite yarn to use for stranded color work. But in the end, having said that, these are a very lovely pair of socks, and it will be interesting to see how they wear. I don't have any more of this sort of deep green, but I have quite a bit of this sort of bright peachy pink color. And so I'll be using that in this whole year's worth of stranded color work socks. And I have one more project off my needles, and that's my Midsummer tee. This t-shirt was a revelation. It came out in July, late June or July. It's a pattern by Caitlin Hunter of Boyline Knitworks. And this pattern, when I saw it on her, I thought, well, that's really cute. I could knit that up really relatively quickly. But boy, like, there's really not much to this pattern. It is quite a square piece of knitting. There's a little bit of shaping here for a lovely neckline. And then you just pick up some stitches and you work some ribbing. It's not a difficult knit. And because I was knitting this at a very large gauge, it is knit at, I think my gauge is about 3 stitches per inch. It just flew off my needles. I think it would be an amazing sweater for a beginner knitter. There is a very little bit of shaping here, which are decreases, and I think there are some short rows through here. But regardless, I think that this would be a very great beginner or even sort of confident beginner knitter sweater. It is, as I said, there's not much to it, but when I put it on, it's adorable. I'm going to put some pictures in here, here, or here, and I'm really happy with my finished object. I used what is really quickly becoming one of my favorite yarns. It's a yarn by Durarum Natura called Ulisse, and it is a sport weight worsted spun, woolen spun, very lofty yarn. It comes in a number of colors. It's a beautiful, it's got a beautiful feel. It's quite soft. It's Rambouillet, which I love. It's from France. And it is also a relatively inexpensive yarn. I used it held double. I used probably 5 skeins, 5 and just a smidgen into the 6th. So it was a really quick little project to work up, and I think I'm gonna wear this a lot. I think I'll wear it a lot in the fall by itself, or with maybe a little camisole underneath, and then possibly into the winter with a long sleeve t-shirt. I think it'll be a great layering piece. The pattern itself comes with a couple of modifications. You can knit it as I did with essentially no sleeve, just a little bit of ribbing here. You can knit it with a short sleeve. You can knit it with a long sleeve. And then she added a v-neck. So you could knit it with no sleeves, the v-neck, v-neck short sleeve, v-neck long sleeve. So this pattern, I think, will be one that I go back to and knit again. Maybe not in this way. I might knit the crew neck with the long sleeves. It's pretty cute. Or I might knit the v-neck with no sleeves, because that also might be cute. Anyway, it's a very cute pattern. It knit up so quickly. It was just what I needed, and I'm really, really happy with the finished project, because I think that it looks really cute, and I think I'll wear it a ton. I chose a gray color, which is very similar to the one that she chose, but also equally a color that I'm going to, I think, wear a lot. And those are all my finished objects for right now. And as ever, I have a couple of projects on my needles. I usually have one larger project, like a sweater or a shawl, and one smaller project. And that's true right now. When I got back from Europe, I went to buy some yarn for a sweater for my daughter. She had asked me if I would knit her a sweater that had quite an open neck. That's very trendy right now, especially with the teenagers. And so I said, of course. We went to a local yarn store called Statement Junkie, and she picked this yarn, which is like a deep kind of bluey gray. And it's knitting for Olive in their heavy merino, which is knitting up at about a worsted weight gauge. I cast on the Sevilla blouse for my daughter. This is a pattern by Petite Knits. She is wonderful at very basic patterns, and I've made quite a bit of progress. The last time I saw you, I only had a very small strip of knitting. Well, I have more than that now. Let me show you how much I've knit since the last time we spoke. So this is a top-down sweater. You cast on stitches and knit the back, and then you pick up stitches here and knit the front, and then you join in the round and you knit down. So I have completed the body, actually. Look at that. This is very brainless knitting. There's not a lot of, I guess, there wasn't a lot of shaping to this piece of knitting that I've got right here. And so it was really easy for me to just sort of work away at it, especially as I watched Olympics. And then when we got home, my husband and I have been watching a show called Deadlock. Friends, if you like dark humor with some adult language in a police kind of comedy show, I would recommend Deadlock. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a show out of Australia. It was really enjoyable. My husband and I really enjoyed it. So I knit this while watching Deadlock. Apparently they have been approved for season 2. Just saying, you have lots of time to catch up on season 1. So this is the sweater. I cast on, I worked all my way down, I finished the body. I added more ribbing than the pattern calls for, because that's sort of the look that my daughter was going for. So I added, I think, 1.5 inches of 1x1 ribbing, and I did a sewn bind off. So it's stretchy, but finished. And then I went back to the neckline and I did the knitting at the neckline to finish it off. It is rolling, which I would expect. It's a stockinette stitch. But I would prefer if I couldn't see this little cast on edge here. Do you see that? So I'm gonna try and block it down. I know that it's gonna keep rolling, but the object of my blocking is just to keep it from rolling quite so much. So we'll see if that's helpful. If not, I may take out the neckline and do it again. We'll see. I think if you pull it this way a little bit, it tends to roll less. And she's looking for a very wide neck, sort of open neck sweater. So I think that will be fine with her. I cast on the sleeve, well, a sleeve, and I'm working that. It's, again, very, very simple knitting. I like to use a 9-inch circular when I knit sleeves. And I was talking about this at Knit Night the other night. And you know how it is. For as many knitters as there are, there's probably that many ways of knitting sleeves. And I think it's no one way is better than another way. I think it's just finding whatever feels comfortable for you or whatever you prefer. I like to use a 9-inch circular because I find that I don't get any laddering and I can just go round and round and round without fussing so much, especially on a very simple stockinette sleeve. So I'm going to work all of the decreases. I think there's not very many decreases for the size that I'm making for her. And then I'm going to have her try it on and I'll see how long she wants the sleeves. And then I'll just knit the other sleeve the same. And then I'm going to be done. That's it. So it was a really quick knit. I think probably because it's just stockinette and the gauge is quite large. I don't often knit on these larger gauges, especially this one, the Midsummer tee with a 3 stitch per inch gauge. That went very fast. But this one equally is going much more quickly than I would have expected, which is great. I'm sort of hoping I'll have this finished before she goes back to school, just after the September long weekend. I think that's a realistic expectation given how quickly the body went. And I really only have a sleeve and a little over half to go. So that is the Sevilla blouse, a pattern by Petite Knits. And if you're looking for sort of basic patterns, I would absolutely recommend you check her out. I find her patterns easy to follow. The instructions are usually quite clear. The finishing details are lovely without being overly fussy. So give her patterns a try if you're in the market for a new sort of basic. Now the last thing that I've cast on is yet another sock. I don't know what I'm going to do with all the socks that I'm knitting. I just know that I'm really enjoying knitting socks, so I'm going with it. I cast on the other colorwork cuff from Summerlee's Colorwork Soft Club. This is what she refers to as a granny stripe, and it's knitting, but I think she meant the colorwork to look like granny stripes, and it does. I've used little balls of leftover yarn that I had just sitting in a drawer over here. And most of these, in fact, I think all of them, are leftovers from other Summerlee socks that I have knit this summer or in the spring. So I've got this is some Stroll. I think that the bright yellow is Leo and Roxy. I made a really bright yellow pair of cabled socks. I used this bright blue in my Scandyland colorwork socks, and this gold I think was also in the colorwork in that pair of socks. And then this hot pink was from a pair of shorty cabled socks that I finished on my vacation. So super fun cuff. And then I'm just making a white sock, the rest of it. I have knit the heel. I'm sorry about my dog barking. And I'm well into the foot. And this is some West Yorkshire Spinners. This time I'm using the Marshmallow colorway, which is a bit of a whiter white. Often I like the Milk Bottle colorway, which is sort of a more creamy white, milky white, if you might say. But yeah, I'm just using some very plain West Yorkshire Spinners 4-ply. And as I'm knitting this, I'm realizing that I like the West Yorkshire Spinners yarn and the Knit Pick Stroll because they're a little bit plumper than that Yao wool that I was using for my other socks, which just makes them a little bit better suited for me for knitting colorwork. But your experiences may be different. I know Summerlee loves the Yao wool, and that's great. I think that there's enough yarns and ways of knitting for everybody to find something that they like. I really like the Knit Pick Stroll for colorwork. I really like a slightly heavier and maybe woollier sock yarn, but you have to find what works for you. So I encourage you to try lots of different things. And I think maybe this Colorwork Sock Club is a great way to try a lot of different things in small bites. And now for my Knit City haul. If you're not interested in seeing the yarn that I've picked up, I totally understand. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. But if you are interested in hearing a little bit about some of the vendors that I chatted with and that I purchased from, then stick around, because I have a hopefully reasonably sized haul. I tried to be conscious of what I could knit in the next little while, and so I did have some projects in mind. And having been to a yarn event and then meeting up with my knitting group sort of just after the event, we all sort of talked a little bit about some of the things that we find helpful when we go to a yarn event. And one of the things that some people commented on was, if you go into an event with a pattern in mind, it makes it easier to shop for that pattern and then hopefully not just randomly purchase things because you're not quite sure what to get. So I did go in with, I had a shopping list and I mostly stuck to it. I got a couple extra things which I'll show you, but I think I was pretty focused in my shopping. But again, everybody approaches yarn festivals differently. That's just what I did. So the first place I went to was Polka Dot Creek. I knew that I wanted to make a Jethro cardigan. This is a cardigan by Tanis Lavallee of Tanis Fiber Arts. Here's a picture of it. And it combines granny squares with knitting. And if you remember, I made my own pullover in a sort of experiment combining crochet and knitting, which I will show you a picture of right here. The sweater I made uses, I use Knit Picks wool of the Andes, which is a worsted weight, so it's a bit heavier. It's quite warm, but I loved the idea of this cardigan because I think it's something that will be quite wearable. So I went to Polka Dot Creek knowing that they were going to have DK minis and that I could buy DK minis for the colors of the granny squares, and then I could get whole skeins for the background. So I went and they had a whole table, which was fabulous, and all of their minis, so fingering weight minis and DK minis, were on sale for 3 minis for $20, and they regularly price them at about $9 each. These are all Canadian dollars, so if that sounds like a weird number to you, just know that I'm shopping in Canadian dollars. So they had a table full of colors, and the lovely ladies there helped me choose. I wanted 5 colors for my granny squares, and I got these colors. They're loosely based on some colors suggested by Tiny Human Knits. She has like a whole nutcracker sort of themed striping yarns in different colors, and I used that as inspiration. I'll actually pop a picture here if I can find it. So this was my sort of inspiration for the colors that I wanted, and these are the colors that I got. I got 3 of each, so each of these skeins is DK. It's 20 grams, 49 yards, and it's 75% superwash wool and 25% nylon. This color is called teal. I got 3 of those. I got 3 of the russet. It's a really pretty rich red color. I got 3 of the frost. I got 3 carnation, which ironically is the flower for January when my birthday is. Never been a fan of carnations, but this is a pretty color which I think goes nicely with the others. And then this one is called Lobster Bisque. Again, 3 of those. So I got these for my granny squares, which I think will be a lot of fun. And then for my background color, I hemmed and hawed. I looked at a pale sort of sandy color. And then I looked at some of the deeper, richer colors because I thought that they would pop out against the colors that I've chosen, these colors, a little bit better. And I was debating between a gray and a deep sort of plummy brown. And a lot of the people at the booth liked the gray. And one of the ladies commented that the gray and I think it was this teal would have been a bit muddy if they were together, so that I could never use this one as like the outside of the granny square. Whereas with the plummy brown, it sort of made all of the colors shine. And that was what really decided me. I wanted something that was going to look really good with all of the colors. So I went with this. This is their Superwash Merino DK. Again, this one is 100% Superwash Merino. It is DK, as I said, and it is called Espresso. Now it's sort of hard to show you. Maybe that's actually a pretty good representation of the color. So it's almost like a deep eggplanty brownish sort of tone. It's very rich. And I got 3 skeins of this. This is going to go around each of the granny squares, and then it will be the sleeves and the collar. So I think that will be a really nice color. But look at this. When I put it next to, I'm not doing a very good job. When I put it next to all of the colors that I wanted to use, it just really, to me, really worked nicely. So this is going to be, these are going to be the granny squares. This is going to be the main sort of outlining and the sleeves. And I think I'm going to be casting this on when my Sevilla blouse is finished. So you can look forward to seeing that soon. So that was the first place I went. Also, while I was at Polka Dot Creek, they dye amazing solids. They do lovely speckles. They also do self-striping sock kits, which I've used in the past. And I wanted to pick up something as a prize for my Summer of Summerlee Socks knit along. So I picked up this sock set. They were featuring self-striping colorways based on mountain towns or Alberta cities. So there was a self-striping color for Calgary, where the event was being held. There was one for Canmore, which is a town just outside of the Rocky Mountain National Parks, one for Banff, and one for Jasper. And Jasper would be, I think, the national park that would be probably closest to Edmonton in the Rockies. It takes us about 4 hours to drive there. And this summer, Jasper had a devastating fire that wiped out probably half of the buildings in the town. It was just heartbreaking for those of us here in Alberta, because Jasper is it feels like your backyard. It's the place you went to every summer with your parents. Maybe that's where you learned to ski. You would go camping there. You go whitewater rafting there. You'd hike in the mountains. That's probably where you saw your first bear. The sort of herd of elk that likes to sit outside the town. So we're hoping and working towards supporting Jasper in terms of rebuilding itself. And so I thought that this self-striping colorway called Jasper would be a really nice way to let people know about Jasper, the town, to come and visit when we're ready, or when Jasper's ready. So this is called Jasper, the self-striping colorway. It's a 50 gram skein. And this is chocolate, which is a coordinating mini, so that this will be one of the prizes for the sock knit along. And I think that will be sort of nice, a little piece of where I'm from, to give to whoever is the winner of that prize. So when I made my purchase at Polka Dot Creek, she gave me this lovely bag, which was great. It was something I used all day, and I fit, I think, all of my purchases in. The next place I went to was Frankie Gray Fibers, which was actually right next door. And oh my goodness, Frankie Gray was busy. She had a beautiful, beautiful booth. It was set up with a massive rug on the floor. She had a rainbow wall of yarn on the back. She had some Taylor Swift inspired yarns, and she was sharing a booth with Amanda, who brought a bling bar from her shop, which I think is the Crafty Jackalope. If that's not right, I will correct myself here. Anyway, it was beautiful and it was very busy. And given that that was their first festival, I was super excited for them. And so I stopped in to pick up some yarns, just to check out what they had. Now, they were giving away tote bags, I think, if you purchased enough, or you could a certain amount of dollars worth of merchandise, or you could also purchase the tote I'm pretty sure. So you saw people walking around the marketplace all day with Frankie Gray fiber totes, which is great advertising and very, very clever. I purchased a couple things. I had been looking for minis because I'm going to be knitting a lot of colorwork socks. I wanted just little snippets of other colors that I don't normally have or use, really. So I stopped by Frankie Gray Fiber. She had a lot of little mini sets, and I got this set. It's her fingering weight, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, which is usually a very plump base, and I think that this is no exception. It's a really, really soft and lovely yarn. I got 5 minis, and each of these minis is 20 grams, 73 meters, 80 yards. And these again are colors that I don't really, well, the pink I probably do, but the other colors are ones that I don't really have in my collection, so I thought this would be a good addition as I'm working these colorwork socks. So I have Phantom, which I think is this pale color, Prickly Pear, I'm guessing that's the green, Eucalyptus, and Pinkety Pink, and Blaze. And I thought, especially with the fall coming and with like Halloween colors, I thought that this would be some good ones that I could work into some colorwork socks. So I got that from Frankie Gray Fibers. Here's her lovely logo. And I also got a skein of her DK yarn. I have been knitting, as you know, a lot of socks, and I really like a DK sock for wintertime, especially for wearing around the house. They're just so cozy. And I like a DK yarn that has some nylon in it if I'm going to be knitting socks, because I don't want them to wear out quickly. I mean, DK yarn is heavier, so it's going to take longer to wear out, but I think the nylon just gives it a little extra strength. The Frankie Gray Fiber DK that they had has 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. Here it is. This is the Frankie Gray colorway. So really pretty, pale pink and peaches with little speckles of colors, and I think that this will be a lovely either pair of socks, or I'll use it for a hat. A single skein of DK yarn can be a lot of things, and so this will likely be, I'm thinking, some socks, but I thought it was a pretty color, so I picked that one up also from Frankie Gray. I am really optimistic and for some reason I have it in my head that I'm going to be doing a lot of embroidery in the next little while. So not too long ago I picked up a kit from Naked and Frayed that has a beautiful sort of scene of Edmonton in it, and at this festival I picked up a kit from Floral and Floss, who is a new to me designer but is from the Edmonton area, and this kit is called Prairie Field, and this to me is very reminiscent of Alberta, particularly at this time of year, August, September, with the wheat fields and the beautiful blue sky with the clouds. This comes with a printed fabric, and so I'll just be following along those printed designs. I've got all the colors I need in full skein, so lots and lots of embroidery, as well as some instructions to get me started. So I've got the printed fabric, the DK floss, a wooden hoop, 2 needles, and an instruction booklet, and the only thing I need is scissors, which it turns out I have. So I'm really optimistic that I can get something very similar to her. Oh, there we go. To her picture here. I think it's just lovely. And so I'm looking forward to working on this at some point. Again, I'm so optimistic that I can do all this embroidery, but I'm hoping that maybe over the winter months, it's something that I pick up. And also it's something that is a nice sort of change for me from doing knitting. It's good for my hands to be doing something else. So I'll be giving that a try. I also, what else did I get? I visited the Crux Fiber booth. I'm a big fan of her ethos, her yarns, and recently on Instagram I've been watching her make these beaded stitch markers, and so I decided I would really like one of those. So this is one of her hand beaded stitch markers, which I think is beautiful. She had a number of them. On the back, I believe it is leather. It's a very sort of traditional beaded on leather. I think it's just lovely, and I'm looking forward to getting to use that. So that is from Crux Fibers. I also picked up another prize for the Summer of Summerly socks, this time at the Comfy Cozy Knits booth. And Comfy Cozy Knits, again, a local to me dyer. She does great tonals and also self-striping yarns. And I picked up another skein, 50-gram skein. The reason I pick up 50-gram skeins is because I think it's just a very useful amount of yarn, especially with a coordinating mini. You can make an adult pair of socks without having a lot of leftover and not knowing what to do with it. So this is, again, an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. It's a 50-gram, so 182 yards self-striping. And this colorway is called Through the Woods, which to me just felt really, really fall-like. And I paired it with a mini, it's a 25-gram mini called Bittersweet. So this little set is also going to be one of the prizes for the Summer of Summerly Socks knit-along. And finally, I went to see my friends at Ginger Snap. Ginger Snap is such a great business. They support so many events. They were one of the sponsors of Knit City Calgary, as were Polka Dot Creek, Frankie Gray Fibers. So it's really nice to support the businesses who support other people. And this couple is so lovely. I just love talking to them. They had a busy summer with lots of events across the country. They drove all the way to Toronto and back, doing events along the way. And they're from Calgary, so it was nice for them to have a home sort of event where they could at least be in their own beds. Anyway, I also got a skein of some more DK yarn, again, possibly for some lovely DK socks or maybe for a hat, I'm not sure. But this yarn again is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 240 yards, and this colorway is called Field of Cornflowers, which I thought was pretty, again, for some DK socks or a hat. I think this will be a lot of fun. And the one last thing that I got at this festival that I had no business getting was yet another handmade mug. I feel like I should start a support group for those of us who purchase beautiful ceramic pottery handmade mugs and then have to come home and confess to their husband that they got yet another mug that has to fit in the cupboard. This time it was a new to me maker. She's from Calgary, called Clockwise Ceramics. And when I saw this mug, I was just smitten. It's just beautiful. It's got a nice little handle. She was telling us about the process of how she fires it using a baking soda technique, which I don't understand completely, not being a potter myself, but I could see her excitement and passion just in getting to talk to people about it, which was lovely. So this is the backside. I just think it's so pretty. The shape is lovely. The inside is this like real robin's eggy kind of pale blue. And so this lovely mug will go in my beautiful handmade mug collection, which is growing and growing steadily. And I may need to get rid of some of my other mugs to make room for all of my handmade mugs. But in fairness to me, I really do use them. Most days I'm drinking out of a handmade mug. And in fact, most days I'm wondering where my first and favorite mug is because my younger daughter has usually stolen it. So I'm not the only person in this house who really loves a handmade mug, but this one to me was just beautiful. And again, it was nice to meet a new maker. So those are all of my purchases, both for myself and for prizes. All of the prizes I purchased myself. I would let you know if they were a gift from the dyer, but in this case, I purchased everything myself. And if you are partaking in the Summer of Summerly socks, then make sure that you're posting pictures on Instagram with the tag Summer of Summerly Socks, and one of these lovely prizes might be going to you. I think that's all I have to share with you today. I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks, which are the last gasp of summer here before my kids go back to school after the long weekend. So I'm looking forward to just enjoying them a little bit longer before early mornings turn them into cranky people, which, fair enough, early mornings make me cranky too. I hope in the next couple of weeks you find time to do the things you like to do. I hope that maybe that's spending time with people that you love, or working on projects that fulfill you, or just spending some quiet time with yourself. I know that I plan on knitting a lot. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.